Okay. We can go live now then, Lee.
Just a second. The floor's yours, Terry.
Thank you very much. Before I open the meeting, if I welcome you all to the meeting, just a reminder of declarations of interest. If you have any declarations of interest, please let us know and we can put it on the agenda under item 2.1. So I'll open the meeting. Welcome to anybody who's joined us from the village. It's good to have you along, and we now start the meeting with apologies for absence.
Councillor Pullen and Councillor Bevan.
Okay. As I said, declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest from councillors?
I've received one from Paul Warrington in relation to a small bill on the financial matters.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Consider any written applications for dispensation. We have none.
None received.
Okay, we move on to speakers, and we welcome Bob back to speak to us and to give us an update on what's happening on the county council and the surrounding areas. Bob, it's your floor.
Yeah, can you hear me, Chairman?
I can hear you.
Right, folks, I'll start with the budget. You probably know most of this anyway from the media, etc. But we got a council tax of 4.9% council tax. But the worry to you and to me and a lot of the public is, plus that, a number of costs and responsibilities are being allocated to parish councils, such as grass cutting, open spaces, play areas, and numerous other things, that if you total all those costs up, it'll put the council tax, because they don't seem to accept or realise that at the end of the day, if you have to put it on your precept, it's still the public that are having to find the money. So I put that council tax, if you take those costs into account, to about 6%, which is extremely worrying in these difficult times. There's also a parking charge and most other service charges, such as registrar, crematorium, you name it, they're all going up. So the cost to the public are going to be quite horrendous. I've referred the rise of the parking charges back to the Cabinet for further consideration. There are a lot of employers in the county on very low wages, and having to and if they have to travel from long distances to get to work, and then turn around and pay £5 or £6 a day parking charges, it's soul destroying and totally unacceptable. So I've asked them to take it back and consider to freeze it. Also, the impact on the city centre, in my opinion, on the stores and businesses would further aggravate the situation and further loss of jobs, which is the last thing we want. Now, the bus pull-in, Lee, I don't know whether, have you commissioned the proposals that I discussed with the chairman and you approved at the last meeting? Have you commissioned that yet, Lee?
Sorry, I wasn't aware I needed to do any further paperwork.
No.
Yeah, they're awaiting that apparently, Lee. So if you could get that done,
Okay.
because what we've got to watch is that the bird nesting legislation comes in at the end of February, and if we want to get on with it now, we've got to get all that dead stuff out from there and have it clear out before the end of February.
Okay.
So we've got to get that done. Otherwise, it's going to be held up till the autumn, and it's going to take us into next winter before we make any progress. So if you could get that some urgency, Lee, if you've got any problems, you come back to me if you'd be so kind.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
But before we do that, Bob, if we're commissioning it, then it means that we're responsible for all the charges. Now, as you know, we've only gotten a certain amount of funds in reserve. Anything over that, I'm not happy if the parish council are going to have to pick up the tab.
That's fair enough. What was this scheme costed at? One that you're in favour of? I thought that was up in the 30s, Lee.
Well, there was amendments to what was originally sent to us, so we don't really have a final costing.
Well, if you put that when you commission it, that you will cover the costs up to the 40,000 or whatever, and anything over and above that, you'd expect the local authority to find.
No
if
problem.
you put it like that, that covers. If you get any problems, Lee, get in touch.
Okay.
The other issue, folks, is the bypass. That's up for a final decision on the 12th of February, and the recommendation is to cancel the Western Road and the Southern Link Road. I've got quite a few concerns about cancelling the Link Road from Belmont to Ross, because in my opinion, if you're having an eastern route, which I've always supported, you want to be able to get the traffic from the Belmont Road down to Ross and through Rotherham Estate to go east, rather than go down Belmont Road, cause more congestion and go through the city centre. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to support obviously the cancel of the western route, because coming through Kingsacre and that, and all those houses, it would be absolutely mayhem this side of town. So I'm pleased to say I've got the support now to go east, and I shall be, although they're pushing for both to be cancelled, I shall be pushing hard for, if the scheme from Belmont to Ross is not in its present proposals, that improvements are made to get that traffic along there in some way or form, there's a lot going on at the moment. I've been 6.5 hours today on this Zoom and on budget and cabinet papers and goodness knows what. So it's pretty hectic to say the least, but I don't think there's much else I've got to report. I don't think there's any outstanding, Chairman. I don't think there's any outstanding, but you'll deal with the planning later anyway. I'm quite happy to take any questions from members, Chairman.
Yes, I have a question, Bob.
Yeah.
My question is if they're passing on the grass cutting and the play areas and make it the parish council's responsibility, the fact that it's the county council's land and that, I don't see how they can impose that on us.
Well, that's what's in the budget and proposed, and of course, if they state that, I suppose there must be something in the makeup of their constitution somewhere that authorises that, because that's what they're doing. And when you see the full list, it's quite worrying. I'm fighting it very, very strongly, because what I'm saying to them is, what you're doing, you're not man enough to put the extra cost on the county council. You're just using the parish council to push a lot of the burden onto them.
Yeah.
To keep your council tax to what you think is reasonable. And that's my argument. So I said, no matter who pays it, the parish or the county, it's still the public who have to pay these awful rises. And when you see the old package, it's quite worrying. Every service that we have, the cost is going up some or other, and some of them quite considerable. So it's going to be extremely difficult. I'm trying to get amendments here, there and everywhere. But at the moment, apart from the parking charges, I reminded them that, if you've got a secretary or a nurse and they travel in from Hay or Ross, time they get into Hereford, then they've got to turn around and pay £5 or £6 a day to park. They're not highly paid people. They're very low wages. And I reminded them that a lot of them are earning far less than what cabinet members are getting their allowances. And also reminded them that there's certain members of staff that only pay £1 a day. And it's pretty hard for those low-paid workers who are trying their best to keep in a job to tolerate. So I'm doing my best to fight that, Chairman, but it's not easy at the moment. They're pretty strong-willed, and they've got some funny ideas. But there we are. That's politics.
Well, can I ask you to take back to them that if we're going to cut their grass areas and their play areas, that we will bill them for it? because they can't impose it on us. If it's their land and their responsibility, they can't just transfer the responsibility to the parish council without consultation.
I spoke to you, Chairman, you will recall. They've got
Yes, I did.
They've got in the agenda, I spoke to you, they've got in there that when the parish council chairman and people met them for discussions, that it is almost unanimously agreed by the chairman and people representing the parishes that they'd accept that responsibility.
No, that's an outright utter lie.
I've put that straight with them after you told me. I put that straight to them at the budget scrutiny meeting last Friday, and I don't know whether any of you hear that meeting with Mr. Norman and I clashed bitterly.
No.
Anyway, you missed a bit of fun there, but never mind. So I am aware of your concerns, Chairman, and I've just made a note now, and I'll raise that issue at the first opportunity.
You see, what they're doing is they're taking their figures from the different groups and the different areas and so forth. Now, some areas might think that's fine.
Yeah.
But certainly the group that I was with was in the north of Hereford, and certainly most of them were against what I've said. Okay, they can understand some parking charges, but nobody was 100% for it. I think you'll find the percentages were something in the region of 25%. But most, it was a bit of a con, to be perfectly honest, because they got us into these meetings and give us this survey and got us to put dots and so crosses on squares and things like that. And they gave us the results, and most of them was to my thoughts of what would suit or what the parish would accept. So I don't know where they got all these figures from. So certainly if they ask me to do any more surveys, so the answer will be no.
Well, if it's any comfort to you, I've checked with the chairman at Stretton and Brainton, and they both agree with you.
Oh,
Brainton did agree with a couple of fringe ones, but basically they are of the same view as you and Stretton Suglas.
Yeah,
so,
lovely.
So my parish councils are all singing from the same hymn sheet.
Okay, I'll stop barracking you, Bob. I'm sorry about that.
It's all right. I quite enjoy a few questions. Don't worry about that.
Anybody else got any questions? Please just don't leave it to me.
Yeah, Terry, I mean, at the risk of sounding stupid, if these things are moved on to us, then we have to raise our precept in order to afford them. We get that from the county councils.
Yeah.
That money's still coming out of the same pot. So what's the point? I'm other than having the sort of position and political clout say, oh no, it's not us, it's the parish councils that are raising your council tax. Surely it all comes out of the same pot. So what?
As I said earlier, I quite agree with you. You see, all they're doing they're being very clever. They're pushing these responsibilities over to you, so you've got to push up your precept. What they're saying is, if these parishes want these services, they've got to pay for them. And they're very cleverly doing that to keep their own budget levels down and pushing those responsibilities and costs over to you, So it's I agree with you entirely,
So I'm kind of right. It's political.
So the next thing they'll be saying to us, Bob, that we've got to pay for the footpaths to be repaired. We've got to pay for the dustbin collections. We've got to pay for the roads to be swept and onwards.
I'm glad you mentioned dustbins because I forgot to mention that. You've had a survey out, Lee, haven't you?
Yes.
About waste collection. Now, my view is, and what I'm supporting, is to remain as it is.
Absolutely.
Because if you get 5 or 6 bins outside every house, it'd be bad enough in the rural areas. But if you're down the city streets and you've got 5 or 6 containers stuck on the pavement outside every house, it would be absolutely, So that seems to be and certainly my colleagues support that, and the other parish councils are of the same view. So that's what I'll be pushing, unless you come up and tell me something different.
Would anybody else like to speak, please?
Yeah, I agree with you, Bob, on the bins. Hello. Bob, I agree with you on the bins. I mean, I've been to Mid Wales where they have lots of separate boxes for different types of waste and stuff, and it's a mess. It just looks an eyesore. And, what we've got works, so why change it?
Quite, I totally agree. I think it's working very well, and I just don't understand them. They got some strange ideas. I do understand that with these difficult coronavirus times, things are difficult. But they had 126 million from the government just to pay for the coronavirus costs, and they already had their budget in place, so that money was there. So they've spent an extra 130 million, and then they come back and said it's only covers 70% of the cost. Well, when you look at Worcester and Gloucester are raising their council tax by 2%. And Gloucester by 3%, and the government money covered all their costs for the virus expenditure. So I immediately tackled them. That did they misuse the funds that they were allocated, and where they are? But they, that's the figures they've produced. So that's where the pressures are coming on.
Yeah, well, the problem is, Bob. We voted these people in because they told us that they had all the answers, but obviously they don't. We will have to wait and see, won't we?
Yeah, you're quite right, Chairman. And I mean, they've got some of the ideas, and I'm sure if you saw them, Chairman, and your colleagues, you would agree with them. But they're coming up with some, which got me in trouble the other day when I said some rather outlandish ideas, we'll see how it peels out over the next few months, but to me it's getting very worrying, you see. And I also said to them that everybody else, staff are getting dismissed and put on short time and losing their jobs and all sorts of things, and there's not one redundancy or any cutback in council staff. So I put down a motion that corporate services provide an extra 450,000 savings to cut these car parking charges and things, And I spoke to the monitoring officer, and she said they could save considerable sums if they just went for voluntary redundancies. There's quite a few people that would be quite happy to go, and they'd have to manage a little bit thinner on the ground for the time being, But we're doing our best, and but I can.
Well, if we sack the chief executive, we'll have plenty of money for everything.
We appoint a new one on Friday.
So what the hell are they doing that for?
Well, there we are. The other one's just retired, and this one's coming from Harrow. I think that's where, up London way, somewhere in it, Harrow.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Sorry?
Ridiculous. I suppose we've got to pay all his removal fees to here, etc., etc. It just goes on and on. It just makes me sick.
It's you're quite right, and these
and now they want us to cut their grass.
Well, I mean, I don't mind. It keeps me occupied in my tough times. But at the moment, I get just on £420 a month, and I put in about close on 50 hours for that of bloody hard graft, it's only when you get to a chairman or a cabinet that you go. But it's the cabinet that take home a fair little screw. But having said that, they put a lot of time in, But there we are, folks.
Well, this chairman gets nothing. So
trouble is, Terry, you've been there. I have 3 or 4 meetings every day sometimes.
yeah. Righto. Is there any other questions before I move on? No, thank you. Right,
I promise you, folks, I'll keep an eye on things, and if you, Chairman, or Lee, any issues that are brought to your attention, please pass them on. I'll do my best to address them.
I'll let them know when the grass is getting over. Please cut him.
I'll check on that query you raised.
Cheers now. Righto, we now move on to approve the minutes or assign the minutes of the last meeting. Have I missed one there?
Yes. Yeah, there's no public questions at the moment. If anybody's watching and wants to ask a question, if they could comment on one of the feeds, please.
Yeah. Yep, sorry about that. I thought I had all of that. I thought, well, where's that gone? Right, we now move on to the minutes. Hopefully you've all had a copy. I've had my copy. Is everybody happy that I sign the minutes for the 16th of December as a true record? As long as you were at that meeting, I'm quite happy to take your proposal and your second. So, could I have a proposer? Have we got Paul?
Paul Beeching.
Paul Beeching. And anybody else, please?
Blood.
Oh, second.
Thank you, Blood. Thank you. So, Paul and Paul. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, signature. Thank you. Right, we now move on to the financial report. Can I leave that to you, Lee, please, to brief the council?
Okay, so we finished the period with £80,669.77 in the bank accounts. During the period, we had the rent, the interest from Lloyds. We received the culvert report money from Hereford Council from that recharge, and the recharge of the decoration of the community hall from the community hall. During the period, we had all of the normal stuff that goes through, so like the Nest pension and the 2 electricity charges for the car park lights and the changing rooms. In addition to that, there was the nursery room setup fee, which is in the license agreement, which comes off the rent this period. The ICO membership has gone out by direct debit as well this period for £35, and then all of the payments that I've just highlighted were the ones that were authorised at last meeting. During the period, we also transferred £3,000 to make sure we had enough money to settle the payments, and to authorise at this meeting there's the expenses £50.47, wages £604.80, HMRC £17.77. There was a repair on the door handle of the changing rooms that I've authorised during the period for £38. That was Good and Property Maintenance, which is Councillor Warrington, who declared an interest in that item earlier in the agenda. And then there's the £300, which is the asbestos report that's been done, which is later on the agenda for discussion. We've got a bill outstanding from Craig Powell, but he hasn't sent it to me yet because he's currently working away, so we'll roll that over to next period. But that's it for payments this month. So after the payments have gone out, we'll be left with £79,658.73. On debtors, we've got £37 owing from Hereford City Sports for the changing rooms hire. That was back in November, still not been paid, so I'll chase that up again. CCN advert, that's actually now been paid. I saw that in the bank earlier, £85. So creditors, the normal sort of bits and bobs, electricity for next month, the WebEx subscription fee and the web hosting fee, £5.99, and then we've got the other liabilities, which is the stuff we've got money in the bank, which isn't ours essentially, and it can be paid back. So defibrillator fund, the Nest pension owing for this period, the deposit for the nursery, youth club funds, and then we've currently got £1,158.21 plus £7.62 of VAT to reclaim, which will be done at the end of March. So that leaves us with £79,112.88. So looking at that from a reserves point of view, we've got £38,863.09 for the bus pulling, which I'll do the document tomorrow for. We've got a balance on the Roman Park at the moment of 4,526, and this doesn't account for any other grants that we've had since, and what we'll be doing at the year end to move reserves around. Culvert repairs 15,000. The embankment, so there's the Roman Park application fee, which is a reserve as well, £85. The embankment repairs, we've got some reserve left on that work there. We still need to put some extra soil in to backfill that to finish that project. I was waiting for some dry weather before we do that. Register the land, £1,500, and signs for the community centre, which we've got on the agenda later on. And then there's a repairs and renewals budget for anything else that could go wrong. So the we've basically got 50, just short of 15,000 of working capital between now and the end of the year. So there's 3 months of operating costs to go out, so you can see there'll be a surplus there, which relates to the money we've had for COVID grants. Just going on the budget format that we know and love now. So I'll just track down this end column. So wages is within £16 of budget for where we are in the year. We've got CCN savings, which is because we did a big savings procurement exercise this year. So there's 1,217. We didn't produce an addition. And you can see most things are within a few pounds of budget, so nothing too much to worry about. So overall operating costs are £1,574, up against budget for the year. The main overspend is on helping out charities and organisations in the community, so grants, £5,025. There's a little bit of savings on the embankment, but we need to spend some of that on soil. So overall we've overspent by £1,955, but we've had extra income of £11,334. So we're up 9,500 basically compared to where we budgeted originally. We've also had a further grant for the Roman Park this month, which has now come through for £6,001, which is the other COVID grant. So we'll be able to allocate that to the Roman Park project. So looking ahead to the end of the year, we're going to have we're going to be on target really as to where we want to be with the budget, and be able to do the projects that we've planned for next year at the moment, assuming the grass cutting isn't tripped up on us. So, Terry.
Right, thank you. Any comments from councillors, please?
Chairman, can I come back in and ask Lee, has he had that money for the culvert survey from the council?
Yes, we had it in December. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, that's all right. It's just that I'm a little bit disappointed because they did promise me they'd look into try and cover the other costs. I'll have another go at them. But anyway, as long as you've got that, Lee, thank you.
If they do that, we'll cut the grass.
Lee, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
With regards to the grant for Roman Park, you say it's about 6,000 altogether. How is that made up?
No, that's the additional one for this period of lockdown. Yeah. So the first lockdown we had 10.
this period? Is that 4,000 you got?
No, we got 6,001 because there was a discretion. Our budget, our what's the word? Rateable value puts us within the £4,000 one, but we also got a discretionary grant on top of 2,001. I could send.
Okay.
I'll send you the paperwork so you can see it.
I'm just asking questions made up.
Yeah. But from a rateable value point of view, we were only in top from what the government announced. I was only expecting 4,000. But it looks like what Hereford Council have done is they've said, well, most people, they had a discretionary grant last time. So what they've done this time is rather than paying out separately, they've paid it out at the same time as the main grant. So we've had 6,000 this time, 1,300 in December, and 10,000 the first time round. So the Roman Park budget now is looking quite healthy in terms of, being able to get on and do some stuff, but it's nowhere near what we need. As you know, the play park equipment's very expensive, so 18,000's not going to really buy you very much, really.
No, but
that's one small area, basically.
Can I ask a question?
Yes?
Yep.
In my ignorance, we've got all this money for Roman Park. What costs is it meant to cover that we haven't had during the pandemic? I mean, why have we got the grant?
It's a good question, Martin. Because the government have basically set criteria for giving grants out on a blanket basis. Now, in some instances, like hairdressers, hair salons, for example, the grant kind of is there or thereabouts okay. For us, with a similar rateable value, we probably don't need it if we're being quite honest. So it feels, I mean, in actual fact, the resource centre and the nursery, Crednell Nursery, were entitled to the original 10,000, but Shelley didn't feel that she could claim it because she didn't feel that she needed it. And she didn't claim it.
Oh dear.
Which,
I can understand it for small businesses who've got, outgoings that they can't meet. But it would seem to me there were many more causes, and I could think of a few amongst family and friends whose businesses have gone under, who couldn't claim any grants. And here we've got money that I just can't see what it's for, Maybe I'm a limb, I don't know.
At the end of the day, we'll invest it in the park, so the community will benefit from it. I agree with your observation that it does seem unfair to some of the businesses that are suffering, and there's other, like us, people that are getting it and don't necessarily need it.
Lee,
Martin, to put it into perspective.
I share you and Martin's views on this, but just for your information, Burgill had the same amount, so it's pretty general,
It's just.
I agree with you. There's some businesses that could have done with a bit of help, and they haven't done as much as they should have.
Absolutely.
No, I'm not complaining at all, Lee, because to put it into perspective, the changing rooms on Roman Park are getting exactly the same as what I'm getting, and I employ 16 people.
Absolutely.
So, so it's all wrong the way it's handed out, and but it is what it is, and we should just take it and keep it, obviously, for future development.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Anybody else, please? No. Right, can I have a proposal then and a seconder that we accept items 61, 62, 63, 64 as a true record of our finances as they stand at the moment? Could I have a proposer, please? Rana, and a seconder, please. Martin, is there any objections, please? No, thank you. Right, we move on to planning. 81 Eckwood Park has been determined. They was given permission to build. Lack of interest on what we commented on. So there's nothing new there. Town well was determined. This is the listed build. Hello?
Are you saying that the new application for the extra bedroom has been approved there? Sorry.
Yeah, there's two there.
No, there's one for 81 Eckroyd.
Oh, yes, it's been determined, mate. Yeah.
Oh, right. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify because there'd been more than one application for this property.
Yeah, but this is the newest one, isn't it?
Yes, the 3-bedroom.
Yeah.
Okay.
We if you remember, we sent our comments in last time. We sent the comments out to the councillors, and as usual, they chose to ignore them. So, Town well, that's the listed building. That's just ongoing improvements in the building to bring it up to modern day standards. 3 Trenchard Avenue. That's been approved. It says with conditions, but the conditions that we requested were ignored again because the paperwork was filled out before our comments were put in, even though they was in on time. So there again, the council failed to recognise the parish council. So nothing new there. Land south of the A480, there's nothing new on that other than determined for outline planning permission with conditions. So other than that, we've got no other planning applications as yet. So if anybody got any comments on that, please. No, can I move on?
Chairman, just to I expect you're aware, there were quite substantial. There was an application on the camp, quite substantial development there, which has obviously been approved. They only just consult on it. They don't have to get permission, but there was quite extensive work to be done there, and that's all on its way.
Well, they used to consult with the parish council, but they don't anymore. Then I'm not surprised at that.
I'll make a note. I'll have a word because, after all, if they consult, I'm consulted. Why can't they consult you? I'll take that up for.
I think if there's any impact for local residents, I think it's something we should at least be made aware of because we didn't want a local resident to ask us what's going on.
Yeah, you're quite right, Lee, but it's not. It was all internal security stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
It didn't mean more helicopters or more what do you call that?
No, that's fine. I mean, we just need a line, if you like, that tells us what's going on and whether it's going to affect us or not. I guess
that's what they always used to do.
Yeah.
It was a matter of courtesy to let us know, so that if we did get anybody saying what's going on, we could just say, oh, they've got a building program, they're building a new block or something like that. But we was never given the nitty gritty of it. Sometimes they made a mistake and sent it out. But,
I will inform the Chief Planning Officer of your concerns, and I'll recommend that you're just consulted, to just politeness.
Well, to be quite honest, Bob, I don't think they're interested in what we say. So,
They're not interested much in anybody says, I can tell you, Chairman.
Yeah.
We're just high for everything.
I'm just so cross about this grass cutting and play areas and things. I'm not going to.
I haven't seen the few details, but if you look at the agenda, I've got it here somewhere. I can't just put my hand on it, but there's an whole page of increases, and they say where it's a lot of issues. There's other matters as well, but there's quite a few issues going over to parish councils. And when I queried it, they said, well, they agreed it when they met us in the consultation.
No, we didn't.
So, and I pointed that out as well.
The purpose of that meeting was to give us an insight on what they was considering, but it wasn't us giving them consent to do it.
Quite.
And with due respect, the chair can't make a decision for the parish council.
Sorry?
Chairman, at the meeting, can't make a decision for the parish council as a whole.
Or the whole village come to that.
Yes, well, it needs to be decided at one of these meetings.
Yeah, that's right.
So if Hereford Council want to consult with us, it needs to be on our agenda.
Chairman, to cover the military applications, if they don't inform you, I'll inform you myself.
Okay. But we will have to have another conversation about these new charges, and we must move on from that anyway.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Finances, I think we've covered all that as such, haven't we, Lee?
Yes.
Martin and Andrew, have you anything further to say on the finances? No. Okay, Community Hall. I believe there's a meeting on Monday, so I will have an update then. But I know they've had quite a considerable amount of quotes in for heating and all that sort of thing. Have you got an update on that, Lee?
No, nothing more to add to
Okay. Well, I've got a meeting with them on Monday, so hopefully we can, get up to date with them, because they've been closed down and everything. Things have come to a grinding halt. Right, footpaths. Paul, you've been checking your footpaths?
Only the ones I can reach within reasonable distance of home. Lee asked about signposting. You asked me in a message the other day. I did actually stop at the road end of a number of the footpaths. A bit too muddy to get down them at the moment, but yes, they all appear to have the little discs on. They're not as visible as you might first think. I don't know if that's a report back that you need to send back to that question, Lee.
Okay. Bex, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I went on a run yesterday and today. I'm not sure if you're aware, around the back towards like where the obvious is and the quarry, as such as I call it, that is all being felled. They're cutting the trees down, they're cutting the brambles back. It's staggeringly different and absolutely amazing that they are literally cutting it all back. And not sure if you're aware of that or not, but it's a massive difference. Massive.
It must be the Duchy of Cornwall then, because they're responsible.
I'm not sure, because I didn't know who was responsible for that. But that's the first time I've ever known it be kind of like that culled as such.
Yeah.
It's a real brutal haircut, if I can refer to it as that. But absolutely lovely. In so much as fair play, you could be, it's going to be a considerable difference. So, just to make you aware of that.
What they tend to do is cut it back, push the logs into the side, and then come back and take the big logs and leave the rest emulsion to the undergrowth. But I should imagine it's the Duchy of Cornwall, because
if you get a chance, have a walk down there. But it is super muddy, so do be aware of that as well, Terry.
Okay, thank you.
But, thank you.
Anybody else on footpaths, please?
Terry?
Yes, Martin?
Lee and I have had correspondence with the Credden Hill Wood. I don't know whether Lee wants to report on that, or I will.
Okay.
Over to you, Martin.
Yeah, we raised the matter of the tree felling up there. The felling is supposed to finish the end of this week. And I don't know whether you've been up there, but there's 2 mountains of timber that are going to take ages to take out. They have agreed that they will scrape the paths because they're very muddied and rutted, and try to reinstate them. And there's one path that has been completely destroyed, and that's the little one which goes down the wooden steps and ends up at the back of the nursing home. And I've been given assurance that that is to be reinstated as well. So they have replied quite positively. Okay. And he also said that he's still got in mind to do the steps at the back of the nursing home, but he's still waiting for a document from the nursing home.
Okay. That's great. Did you get all that, Lee?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, you've got that, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Anybody else got comments to make on that, please? Yeah. Okay, we move on then to shops and businesses. We've had nothing from Dot, have we? Anybody got any comments to make on shops and businesses? No. Okay, we move on from that. War Memorial. We've got something later on, haven't we, with regard to the War Memorial, but Dina, have you got anything to say on that? Sorry, Dina, we can't hear you. Your mic is blocked, Dina. Dina, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you now, yeah.
No, I haven't got anything to add.
Okay. Thank you very much. Right, we'll move on to flood alleviation scheme. Lee, have you got...
We've got an item on the agenda.
Okay, we'll mention that later on then. Schools, Rana, have you got anything to say, Rana, about schools?
Yeah, I've been in touch with them to see how they're doing. They've got about 50 children at the moment, mostly key worker children. They're keeping the numbers down to about 10 per class, mostly, but I think they can take more, but that's what they're trying to stick to. And they're really just ticking along very nicely, keeping the parents happy. It was a difficult start to the term, as you can imagine, because they were not expecting a lockdown. But they've settled into a good routine now. The morale isn't too bad, really, considering.
Yeah, okay. Do they have problems with laptops and things like that?
They didn't say.
Okay.
There is something else, because just on the old school, just really kind of just to bounce in the direction of the parish council for the time being. And the old school is in progress of the nursery there is closed, and she's supposed to hand it over back to the trustees, but she hasn't quite managed to do that yet. She's still got a lot of equipment there. But it's a very complicated and long story. But basically, I'm trying to secure the building as a community for a community project. And it's something that I really hope that the parish council might be able to support us on. But I'm hoping that we might be able to turn it into a kind of coffee shop during the week, and a potential place for perhaps a youth meeting space. I don't know, a coffee shop in the evenings or something like that. And to be able to be available for small fundraising events like, I don't know, church fetes and jumble sales, that sort of thing. And then the church hopefully use it for a cafe-style church or something like that, messy church, that sort of thing on Sundays. So I'm in the process of all that, but I feel like I'm wading through treacle at the moment. It's really hard to get very far. The council are being lovely about it, and I'm talking to David I've been talking to David Hitchener today, and he's looking at the legalities for me. So that's where I'm at with that. But I because it's something I'm thinking that the community might be involved in rather than church, I'm just hoping that the parish council might like to sort of put their elbow behind me, give me a nudge in the right direction.
Well, has anybody got any comments to make on that? Yeah.
Well, we have funds available from the old youth club. Terry.
Well,
I'm very aware of that. We're a mile away from that yet. It's a long way from that.
I certainly think that that those funds are available, and if it's for the right thing, yeah. But I think you and I have said before, as long as it's not religious based, the youth club.
Yeah.
Purely because there is children out there that come from families that don't have a faith, or they have different faiths and so forth. So it has to be by faith for everybody, and not dominated by one particular religion. But with regard to the coffee shop, the daily coffee shop, I think it's a brilliant idea, and I should imagine, there's a lot of people in the village who would be quite happy to do I think some places have got this where people go in and have the place for the day, and they run their coffee shop, and then another group come in and run a coffee shop. What's the kitchen like there? Is it?
Yeah, well, rubbish. I mean, that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Is that it's going to be an expensive thing to set up, I think. But I like your idea of sort of letting it out to different charities or something.
Yeah.
It'd be really good. Yeah.
But
The other thing I thought of was that I know the streets they were very community minded, and I think the problem was the venue was in the wrong place for them.
Yes.
And my thought is that we would hopefully catch the parents as they drop their children off in school. They might come for a coffee and a cake.
Yeah.
Until going back home. So that was really my thought on it. And I wondered whether the street might be interested in helping us with that somehow.
I'm not quite sure what they're doing these days, but with regard, if the kitchen is of a reasonable standard, and if we can raise the funds to get it into a reasonable standard for that sort of thing, the only thing that I think could be a problem is the location, and that steep hill, and if you're going to think about the elderly and that's going there on a, that's a bit hard. But there is all the different groups that we have to think of, I know, but that's the only problem I can foresee on it. What about everybody else? Have they got an opinion on it, please? No. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's early days, but I mean, I really threw it at you just so you've got it in your mind.
Okay. Well, it's certainly worth talking about.
Yeah, have a think about it.
Okay.
Chairman, just before you move on, I'll leave you now.
Thank you, Bob.
I've got 450 agenda pages to go through tonight before tomorrow. Okay, thanks, folks. Any issues raised, Lee, let me know.
Yeah. I'd file them, Bob, and have a large whiskey. Right, we move on to Roman Park. Jenny and... Is it Jenny and... Bex. Sorry. Anything, Jenny? Your mic's...
I don't have any point. I'm not aware of anything. Sorry to overcut you there, Jenny.
No, me neither. Nothing to add.
Okay.
I think the only update I have is we've had the handle replaced on the changing rooms, which was damaged.
Yeah. I certainly think that once we've got overall what's going on in our life at the moment, that, with this money that we have got set aside for Roman Park, we need to start really thinking about putting something in it that's going to, make it more user friendly for people in the village. And people have said all sorts of things. Oh, the park's just standing there empty, and so forth. What are you going to do with it? So, I think Lee, there's a discussion to be had on that, because we really need to get a group together to start moving on that. And we have got funds, though be it not a lot. I think we need to sort of start moving on that. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I certainly think it needs to be. There needs to be things there.
That's the children's play area.
Yeah.
With COVID, we haven't been able to have a community meeting to show everyone the ideas, have we?
Okay. That's why I say as soon as we can,
Yeah.
I mean, over this dreadful situation, then we must work on that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can I just come back to a previous point that Martin raised on the path in the woods?
Yeah.
Then I just wanted to let you know that path that you've referred to is actually a public right of way. It's you see, I don't know if you can see my cursor.
Yeah.
But that bit that drops down there, down to the woods, is actually a public right of way. So they have a requirement to reinstate that anyway.
Yeah, he says he's going to this week.
Yeah. Okay. We just need to make sure.
Yeah, that's why I raised it, because it's a nice short little walk for some people, you know.
Yes, it's a steep, is it? And it's a safer. Well, it was safer. Okay, I just thought I'd raise that.
Thank you.
Right. Social club. Anything, Paul?
No, nothing to report. I've not heard from anybody from there. I used to have a little bit of communication with Craig, but now Craig's not around as much. I don't see him, so I don't know what's going on there, to be honest. So watch this space, I guess.
Well, I think they're all depressed. That's like the rest of us. So, you know, and what they need is a good drink. So,
don't we all?
Yeah. Right. Asset management.
Everything on that's on the agenda. So,
okay.
9.
COVID-19 emergencies, emergency cover and so forth. Rana, sorry, I'm picking on you. Have you heard anybody that's in difficulty or you know needs help or?
Yeah, but not in Credden Hill. I am assisting elsewhere.
Okay, well that's good to hear. I think, to be fair to the people in Credden Hill, after the last lockdown, I think they got themselves sorted, which, you know, they found that sort of getting meals from here and there and so forth, like myself, I must admit, it makes life quite easy, and we're still doing it now. So, right. I think we've covered all the working groups. So if we move on to matters arising, the last meeting, police have deferred their meeting to February meeting. They was unable to attend tonight. Was there any other comments on that, Lee?
Just the sub items, really. I've been in touch with the police about a number of matters, actually. One of the things that we've talked about many times is the speeding on the A480 and on Station Road. Now, it turns out that Hereford Council did a speed survey on the A480, if memory serves me right, back in November, early November, late October. Yeah. And as a result of that, the 85th percentile of speed is 39 miles per hour, which means obviously 15% are going faster than that, and a considerable amount are going over the 30 miles an hour limit. But what they've said is with the community speed watch, it won't have enough impact to reduce the speed down to the speed limit, and the only way to deal with it is through engineering. So either fixed device or other types of engineering along that stretch of road, like for example a Pelican Crossing or Toucan Crossing, whatever they're called. So it'd be interesting to see what Hereford Council have got planned there, if anything, because they did the survey, and I'll follow that up. But what it does mean is we've had 4 volunteers so far, I think, for the community speed watch. Well, obviously that's a scheme we can't, then they won't support us running along the A480. But I've got to ask them about Station Road, whether we'd be able to run it along there, because I think Station Road is a concern, particularly coming in from the Brecon direction. So I'll follow that up.
How far along 480 is it planned to go?
Well, they did the survey in the new 30 mile an hour section.
Yeah, but how long? I mean, it's 30 miles. It's past past the two houses along here, where I live.
So they did the survey.
And I haven't seen anybody around there doing anything.
Yeah, they've done.
It stops at Station Road. It's as though the 480 doesn't exist past there.
Yeah, they've done a survey at the end, as I say, at the end of October, just to record speeds. They didn't do any enforcement, but they did enforcement. Terry spoke to them, didn't you, Terry, last week?
I did. Yeah, in Station Road.
That was in Station Road, was it?
Yeah.
So they've done some enforcement around the village.
But when they do the surveys, they park themselves on the green, on the tee where the tree is, so they can be seen from both directions. So people have got plenty of time to slow up.
Yeah.
I mean, when they're not there, it's you just can't believe the speed that people come along, and it's not just cars; it's the lorries.
Yes, the lorries.
I think that's something that you can raise with the police when they attend next month's meeting, and just highlight the fact that you believe that the speed enforcement has been a little bit too visible. Let's say.
Well, they likewise in Station Road. They was opposite the bus stop in Station Road. Just before the shops. In both directions, you could see them a mile off. So that's exaggerating a bit, but you could see them from the top of the bridge right the way through on the 20-mile-an-hour limits. But, the further comments about it 39 miles an hour, and it's not worth having enforcement out there. So what's the point in having a speed limit?
No, what they're saying is it's not worth running the community scheme. So where we train up volunteers with the radar guns, because in their experience, running a community scheme doesn't reduce the speed significantly enough. Because with a community scheme, they only get a warning. They don't get a fine for the first time they're caught. They just get a warning. And apparently it doesn't have enough effect, because you're looking at reducing their speed by almost 10 miles an hour. So what they're saying is it needs engineering, so the road needs changing. Something in the road needs changing to reduce the speed. So either making it narrower or putting a crossing in, which obviously the new development has, if that goes ahead, that's part of that plan. So I think, again, it's a valid question. Let's ask the officers when they're in the meeting next month.
But they've put some engineering controls in already, and they're called speed limits.
Yeah. Now,
I'm just wondering if this is something the camp can help with. I'm sure they've got some Milan missiles that might be going out of date, and anything going over the speed limit just attracts one of those.
Well, the other thing is that, to a bit of engineering, we could ask them to put a few potholes in. They're quite good at them.
Yeah. They've just got the road fixed, Terry.
Yeah. It is frustrating to drive along there at the speed limit and get tailgated basically by all and sundry. And equally, one of the things that particularly grips me is when I'm doing 20 miles an hour down Station Road, following the speed limit, which is in place because of the kiddies at the school, to see mothers with kids in the car right up my backside who are gesticulating that I'm doing the speed limit. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you fully there, 100% in fact. Yeah.
It's, enforcement, they say, is not the answer. A copper stood there with a speed gun and pulling multiple cars over into the lay-by just outside the camp to ticket the buggers and send them on their way is going to be... It's going to send a message. I flashed my headlights and waved at a number of trucks coming through, particularly the tarmac tippers, maybe an approach to tarmac. If we've got some evidence of their lorries humping through the village, then we send the video clips to tarmac, who will then talk to their subcontractor and say, what's going on?
Oh, no, they say, they're always moaning in that village. Right. Anyway, sorry, Plod, but I think we need to move on because we could talk about this all night, this one, because it's such an emotive subject. And we'll wait and see what the policeman says next month. I'm not going to hold my breath or anybody else's because, it's a normal thing. They don't seem interested. Right, recent incidents of fly tipping, lead theft, and rogue traders. I thought that said rude traders. I don't know. Right.
Yeah, so there's been a spate of incidents in the last couple of weeks. We've had some chickens stolen from a property out, not within the village, but on the outskirts. We've had somebody's been approached for that they've got spare tarmac left over from a job, and do they want their drive tarmac in for a cheap price for cash. We've had lead stolen off Field House, which might not be lead. I don't know what Ron is, whether she's got an update on that. But there seems to have been a few incidents, and that fly tipping as well contained a gas bottle and various things that suggested that there were normal road traders that we get in February started operating in the area. So I think some flyers and stuff in the CCN and just making people generally aware that there have been a few incidents recently, and that people are just to be a bit more cautious when if someone knocks on their door, or if they see something suspicious, like there was a person on a roof in Stretton Sug a couple of weeks back. There was somebody suspicious on a roof, but they didn't call the police. Well, they should have just called the police straight away, because they were probably doing exactly the same as what they did at Field House. I don't know if anybody saw people on Field House. No. But they may have just looked like contractors with yellow jackets on,
Rana, do you know anything on that?
Yeah, they were very clever. They only took the lead off between the school and the Field House, so you couldn't see them from the road easily.
Okay.
I've instructed the tenant to contact the police to get a crime number and get it sorted with her insurance. She's not doing anything. She hasn't responded to me at all. So I don't know quite how to leave her there.
Perhaps she doesn't have insurance.
Well, it was an agreement that she should have insurance, and at the beginning of the month, I asked her if she had insurance for the rest of the month. Well, when her insurance goes to, and she assured me it goes to the end of January. So there was supposed to be insurance in place, so I'm not quite sure if that is true or not.
You can log a crime on the West Mercia Police website, and it'll give you a crime number straight away. So what I'd suggest you do, Ron, is if you log on and just log the crime, and then pass her the crime number and tell her that she can then update the crime if she needs to with any other information. Then that's as far as you can take it. But
okay.
We'll put some stuff in the CCN about just generally people keeping an eye on suspicious behaviour in the village.
Good idea. Thank you.
Okay, can we move on then? Right, tree planting project, 2020-21, agreed key principle for project.
Okay, I'll try and be brief on this. We've got a grant that we can apply for before the end of March. For some trees, and what I'm suggesting is I've done a whole document on this to send off to essentially the Roman Park has a row of trees partially around the outside, and if we were to purchase 16 trees or 15 trees and use the tree from the Batchelor family, the horse chestnut tree that's been potentially donated, then we could fill in the gaps and create almost a, if you see on this image, image 12, if they're all planted like that around the park, and then the one of the play providers that Martin and I met suggested that we could put a path all the way around the outside for people to exercise and have it as a general walk. But I think what I need just really tonight is councillors to agree that as a general principle, and then I can go away and get the grant then, if people are happy for us to do that. Any comments?
Any comments, anybody, please? Yes, Paul.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan, Lee. At least it makes use of the grant, and it does make the park a bit nicer as well, doesn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Uniform.
In addition to this, Jenny's highlighted some other tree projects that tree packs that we can apply for, which we could fill in some of the hedges that are on the plan that the architect did for us, and potentially get some fruit trees for down near the resource centre. That would be, I think, a great project. Oh, yeah. This one needs to involve young people. So with it being 15 trees, what I've suggested is we could get 1 year group, 1 tree per year group for the school, so 7 there. 1 for Young Magna, 4 for the Scouts, 2 for the Brownies and Rainbows, 1 for the nursery, and that would make up 15 trees. So each of the young groups in the village that exists will have planted a tree, and then also we can invite the bachelor family. I think this tree here, I don't know if you can see my highlighting. This tree here is near play equipment and stuff, and with it being a conker tree, it would be a nice area for the conkers to fall and children to make conkers and play conkers. A bit old-fashioned, I know, but so that tree could go there, and that would cover using the young people within the project, because that's a key aspect of the grant application. But if we could get agreement as the key principle, then I can go away and work on it.
Can I have is there anybody would like to say anything further on that? Okay, so I can't see anybody want to speak now.
I propose we go ahead.
Okay. Who said that?
Jenny.
Jenny, are you proposing that then?
Yeah.
Okay, and Paul.
I'll second that, Terry.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. In principle, that's brilliant, isn't it? And as you said, there's other things that Jenny's got on her books that might give us some trees for other areas in the village, as you said. But
yeah,
trees is an important thing these days. So, yeah, let's go for it. Okay, should we move on then to additional COVID grant for Roman Park? I think we've already mentioned that. And that will be in Roman Park account with the grants with the funds we already have there, and will be reserved for projects in the future once we've moved out of the epidemic. Anything further on that COVID grants? No. Okay. Review a community or capacity appraisals document. Agree who should pay for the additional professional fees incurred. Lee, you've been working on that, haven't you?
Okay. I think I've sent this out to councillors before Christmas. We were working to quite a tight deadline to get this document to Hereford Council, because we wanted it to be considered as part of the 100 house development. One of the key problems that we've identified with the hall is with it being one room and it being fully booked at the moment on the key nights, which is this timetable here. there's really no capacity. The document just goes through all of the key points in there and gives us some arguments and reasoning why we believe that the development should at least put some money towards these changes that are proposed. So essentially what we're looking at is two dividers so that the downstairs area can be divided into 3 rooms, one being the stage. Reconfiguring the entrance lobby, adding a disabled toilet, stairs up to a mezzanine landing at the top, and then there'd be a light room for the stage lighting and sound. And what this would do is mean that you can hire it out to up to 4 groups, or as one big performance hall or one main hall. And it means that 3 or 4 hires can happen at the same time. So the hall then becomes more sustainable, because at the moment it can only afford to pay for what's coming in is what's going out. They're not actually retaining any money to make improvements or maintain the hall. It's just slowly dilapidating, hence why we've had to help out with grants and funding over the last 2 or 3 years to try and bring things up to scratch. So what this does is it gives them the ability to earn more revenue on an annual basis. They can hire it out, and it means that the hall's going to be available to the community more often. It will be warmer as well, smaller rooms to heat up, so each area will be able to be heated individually. So that just shows how the individual activity rooms. So I've sent this report out. Now, what happened before Christmas was that we'd commissioned the architect to do the drawings, and that fee had been agreed, and he'd gone away and done that piece of work. But what we needed for Hereford Council was a breakdown of the costs, or at least estimate of the costs to do the work, because we can't go to Hereford Council and say we want to do this, and we think that the developers should be contributing towards it, without actually saying to them how much it's going to cost. So the architect went away and did that in quick time, and they used one of their senior quantity surveyors who has experience with these types of projects, but we've incurred an extra fee because of that. So I'm hoping that the council, rather than the community hall having to pay that, I'm hoping that the council would agree to pay that fee. But we've got a breakdown of the fees, and I've split it into what are general improvements. So, like for example, reprovisioning, making the kitchen nice. We've already got a kitchen, so all we're doing is improving the kitchen. Or whether it's to do with increasing the capacity of the hall. So increasing the capacity of the hall is estimated to cost approximately 72,000. So if you divide that by the 169 houses that are planned, then you could see that it becomes approximately £427 per property that could be funded through Section 106 monies. So this report's gone to Hereford Council now, and it's with them to review and consider as part of the development. So if they agree for the development to go ahead, this will be considered as part of the Section 106 agreement. So the Section 106 agreement, just for reference, is the agreement that the developers agree to pay extra money per property to fund things like education, highways improvements, public transport, and local amenity improvements. So, for example, there's money for the Roman Park there, but I'm hoping that when the Section 106 lady gets the report, she's already said that it's possible to include this. I'm just hoping that now we've given the information. I think we've got some very good arguments, and they may come back and trim it back, but at least we've asked for the best solution. So if they come back and say, actually, we'll give you X amount of money, then we can rein some of what we've done here back and we can still do things. We've got prices for the partitions, for example. There's no reason why we couldn't just put the 2 partitions in the existing hall, and then it still would be able to be divided by 3, but it just wouldn't give it the same. It wouldn't give it the same overall impact of doing the whole thing. Obviously, the other option is to knock it down and rebuild it, but the hall tried to get grants to do that when shortly after Stretton Sugwas had their brand new hall built, but apparently we're not rural enough, so make of that what you will. Which Jamie Dover was involved with that project, and unfortunately it unfortunately didn't go ahead. So we are where we are. As I say, because of this and the speed that I've got it together, I've incurred an extra cost. It's £540 plus VAT, and I'm hoping that the parish council might support that being paid by us instead of the community hall. Any comments?
Yeah. No comments. Can I have a proposal then that we pay this £540 plus VAT, if VAT we claim back? Could I have a proposal and a seconder, please? That we, okay, Paul Warrington. It's all right. You've disappeared. I can only see your head. And Andrew Slater. Oh, is that all right, Andrew?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. So Paul Warrington and Andrew Slater. Okay. Is everybody happy with that? Yeah. Nobody against? No. Okay, thank you. Consider community centre signs, quotes and options received. I think we all have had some pictures, hopefully you have.
Yeah, so I've got quite a few pictures on this. Just a minute. My laptop's not very happy at the moment for some reason.
It's the user.
Probably.
Has it lost its sense of taste, your laptop?
It's got a nasty cough.
Come on.
Right.
Right. Let me just change the view, and you can just view the pictures in here.
Okay.
To start with. I have sent these out. Can you see the Wyvern one at the bottom, everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Wyvern Business Systems sign, that's a metal sign, and as you can see from the side profile, it's like a 3D effect, effectively. That's over budget. That's £1,400 for that type of sign. There's the Verzon sign, which is just standard. That's basically very similar to what we've got at the moment, and just a replacement of that. And then there's the sort of double-sided A-frame sign. So what my thought with that one is that could go behind the bin on the grass area to the left as you go into the community centre, and then that would be visible from both directions. So that's 850, so that's 150 under budget, that would be. Obviously it wouldn't say Hill Ash House. I'll have to get some further designs done without information on. So that's those, and then there was a couple of other plain options. This is actually going to open. There we are. So again, this is just a standard, just 2 poles with a metal board on. Obviously, we'll deal with the words on it once we've made a decision on the type of sign we want. If you don't like any of them, I can go away and get some more prices, but they were more expensive, those last ones. Just a second.
I quite like the double-sided one, Lee. If you're coming in from both sides of the village, you can see
Okay.
Yeah, I like the style of that one as well. It's not too civic, shall we say? Looks a bit more rural.
We could also put our tree on it. You know, the tree that goes on the headed paper and everything. It would look quite nice at the top.
Yeah, I'm not so keen on that one.
That's a bit bland, isn't it?
It is. It's a bit, dentists or doctor's surgery.
It looks like industrial site.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
That's nice, yeah.
That's the
There's a
best.
tree with the H's.
And that would basically say Crednell Community Centre, and then it would list out Crednell Sports and Social Club, Crednell Community Hall, and Crednell Nursery. Then perhaps we could have some symbols on there that show. I don't know if there's a general symbol for Community Hall, but you could probably put the Scouts logo on, Magna. A picture of a dart, a picture of a pool table, a picture of a skittle, a picture of things to do with it that if you don't read all of the sign, you see something that might actually think, oh, actually, I didn't realise there was a Skittles there, and hopefully that will generate some more interest for the facilities down there. Okay, so I think if we're agreed on that, then what I need to do is get them to do some designs for the next meeting, I think.
Before that, is there anybody else got any other preference to that particular one?
No, Terry, can I just ask who owns that patch of grass there?
Ours.
Which council now?
Yeah.
Make a good place to put parish notice board.
Yes, we could put the board there.
It's out of the villages, such, isn't it? But I agree with you. It is a good patch.
Yeah. So, do you want to go ahead with that, or would you prefer just to leave it informal at the moment, and I go away and get some designs?
The principle of having a double-sided sign like you've suggested there would be good. If you can go and get some designs by the sign makers and see what they say, you give them your ideas. I think the idea you've got little signs by each organisation, it just stands out a little bit better like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you say, the Scout logo, Magna, they've got their own logo, haven't they? And it's an abbreviation of each organisation.
The only problem is if you put too much on it, people don't look at it.
We'll keep it simple,
you've got to have something that stands out.
Did it also mention the not the pub, what's the word, sorry?
Social club.
Social club. It'll mention the social club and the preschool as well, will it?
Yeah.
Excellent.
There you go, there's the deed. And that's included. The entrance is here. Just below the sea, that's where the entrance is.
Mm.
Lee, do the social club and the community centre and the nursery, do they all know about this?
Well, no, I'm going to involve them. It's been on the agenda for the social club for a while, and in fact, it was that they almost instigated this, because what they said is a lot of people don't even know that they're down there because there's no sign near to the road that actually says social club. So people can just drive past forever and never even know it's there. So yes, they kind of do know, but I will include them in the discussions on the designs. Bex.
Lee, what about, obviously, I slightly agree with what Dina is saying as well, that if you have that sign initially a bit too busy on that road, what about, like you say, keeping it simplistic as to what's there at the entrance, and then maybe at the a signage for the social club showing a dart symbol, a pint of beer, a skiffle, those sorts of things. And then for the social club, because it's not, sorry, for the community hall, it's not just Magna, it's not just, you know, you've got the Weight Watchers, you've got Knitting Club, you've got those established groups that are there, and then they can be introduced, like you say, the Scouts and Rainbows, those symbols. So if you have all of that on that main sign, if they do change, some of the groups are obviously very established, but if there is that chop and change, you're just doing the one main sign. And obviously the nursery is pretty obvious, it's the nursery. But I wonder if that first initial one is kept quite simple, and then the specifics outside each establishment to say more so at a glance than what you can see with the symbols.
Yeah. Mate, yeah.
But I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good idea, that.
Good feedback, yeah.
Okay, so Lee, you're going to go away and draw up some pictures for us, designed, and we can have a look at it next time, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Lee, could I just ask something quickly?
Yeah, of course.
Is the community centre signposted from the other end of Station Road? I've never noticed one.
No.
It's not up by the tree, I mean, on the...
No, I think it just says Village Centre or something like that, if I remember rightly.
Community centre. I was just wondering if you're going to go and put these new signs up by the community centre. Could you not get a smaller version of what you're going to put there up on the triangle, or on that signage that's already existing, to put one up for the school? Then doesn't the community centre get one as well?
Yeah. I can't remember if it's on there.
I can't. And that's strange.
We get a lot of visitors, 4x4 club and people like that, and come out of the... I mean, if they're going to go looking at it, it's quite a big village now. It's not obvious to everybody. It just might be worth a donation. Whilst from making two big ones, can we get a smaller one a bit cheaper from the same supplier? In the centre?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Good idea, yeah.
Okay, okay, we move on from that one. I like that idea. Okay, Lee's put up the flood alleviation scheme. We've just seen the plans, haven't we? Yeah.
Do you want me to talk through this?
Yes, please, mate.
Okay, so this is the next...
Put up another slide, please.
Yes. So I'm hoping that this is the next and final version of the land transfer and the easement deed. I had obviously I forwarded the email from the solicitor, which has got the information on, and I had a conversation with them yesterday, just to clarify a few items. So first thing is, one of the things I wanted to clarify was that the northern edge of the land that they're transferring is directly adjacent to the... Sorry, I'm just going to mute a few people, sorry, I'm getting a bit of feedback. It is directly adjacent to the land that the Hereford Council actually own, and therefore there's not some kind of weird slither in between that we would still own. So, and he's clarified and reassured us that that is the case. And that actually comes slightly into the car park, and the reason for that is because there are foundations under the pavement that relate to the flood defences. So they need to own the land that includes the foundations for the flood defences. Within this document as well, it also says there's a T there, you'll see on that, and anyone that's familiar with these sort of documents will know that it says here the transferee, so Hereford Council, whereby covenants to maintain the boundary wall as shown marked on the plan T. So that means that that wall will always be the responsibility of Hereford Council to maintain, and not us. So my view of this particular document, the TP1, it doesn't. I said last time we might be able to get our fees paid for, but I was wrong. I think I explained that in the email. Essentially, this bit of land is being segregated from our original deed, so it's this bit of land that the requirement to register is on. So Hereford Council have said they'll pay for that, and they're not going to pay our fees to first register our land. So we've got no recourse, and the solicitor again has confirmed that. So my recommendation and the solicitor's legal advice is that this is a sound document and we should sign it and be done with it, because that transfers the ownership of the changing rooms, which we've been using for all those years, into our ownership, because technically we don't own the changing rooms at the moment, because it's this document that puts them in our ownership, to pay for the land that we're giving them in exchange for it. So that's that. And then the second document is the easement. So what this does is it places covenants on us, the parish council, as landowners over our land. So for example, so this is where you come into from Station Road. This is the community hall. That line there is the line of the pipe that was installed across the car park. So essentially, we need, if we want to dig or make any alterations to anything within the blue strip, we first need to talk to Hereford Council. Likewise, the other way, if Hereford Council want to enter our land to work on the flood alleviation scheme, so all of their land now marked in red, they also need to give us notice and let us know what they're going to do and when and why. So it's kind of a two-way agreement. And the solicitor again has been through this with a fine-tooth comb, and when Terry and I met the original solicitor, they went back and recommended changes to protect ourselves and protect the businesses that operate within the community centre, so the nursery, for example, and the community hall and the social club, because we need to make sure that if there's any business interruption due to works that the council want to carry out, then there's adequate notice and there's adequate compensation in place. So that's all taken care of within this document. The legal advice from the solicitor is this is a sound document, and as a parish council there is no reason why he wouldn't recommend us signing it now that he's been through it and got all the bits in place. So that's where we are. Any questions?
No. Did you say, Rod, did you want to speak? No.
I was just about to say I read through most of the documents and read the covering email. I propose that we sign it, or that you sign it, sir.
Okay. Well, I need a proposer and a seconder that I do sign it.
Okay, well, I will propose that we sign it.
Okay. A seconder, please. And Paul, I've lost the other Paul.
Paul Beachy.
Paul Beachy. Okay. Is there anybody who's against that, please? No. Can I just mention one thing, Lee?
Yes.
You mentioned the porter cabin.
Yes.
Can we insist before we sign it that they get planning permission for it?
I think we're being a little bit what's the word?
Bloody awkward.
Yeah, and I think we're trying to get away from that, aren't we?
Well, we still got to do it.
Well, yeah, no, I will do that. Obviously that's on my list of things to do, but we needed to get this off the table first.
Okay.
I think if we go back and say, oh, but there's no planning permission, we need you to get that in place before we agree to sign this, they'll say, well, we want rent from you for the last so many years of use of the change rooms. You know, it's going to be it's all going to get silly, isn't it?
Can you say something like, this is signed, we note that you have this lesson hut or something. You're noting it's there and what date it was there from, etc.
I just think we're in a position now where the documents are they're mutually agreeable. Let's say, which is
I'm not disputing that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is we've got to get planning permission for that building.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
And it'll be in our name now. So
anyway, we've got a proposal, we've got a sector, and everybody seems to be happy with it. So we move that on.
Yes. Flood alleviation scheme done.
Yeah, that passed. Roman Park safety inspection, that's the ROSPA report. That's going to be done in March.
Yes, it's booked for March. Just a note on that, because I know Jen used to walk around with them. There's an offer for us to walk around with them, but we have to pay an extra £41 plus VAT if we want to do that, and I just can't see the value in doing it. So. But it's booked.
Right, asbestos and survey management plan for Resource Centre.
Right, I don't think I've sent it out to everybody, but I think it's probably best I just summarise. And the summary is they've tested all of the likely sources of asbestos in the resource centre. They've been sent off, samples have been sent off and tested, and they're all negative. And the report basically says we do not believe, because they never say it doesn't, because they cover their own backs. We do not believe there's any asbestos in the building. So I've sent that to Shelley so that that's covered. We've got an asbestos management plan in place now for a building that has no asbestos, so happy days. And we've got the bill, which is £250. It's done. We've covered our requirements, and I've also asked the hall to get one in place there as well. So that's done.
Okay. Any comments? Yeah. Okay, we move on. Consider and agree the war memorial feedback from various contractors.
Yeah, so originally, when I set out on this journey, I wasn't sure what needed doing to the war memorial. So the first quote we got back just said it needed cleaning, and they sent us a quote for cleaning, which is £1,275. Let's have a look at that one.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so they essentially were going to clean the war memorial and then do some light sanding and cleaning up of the woodwork on the what's it called, the cabinet thing. So that was £1,275 plus that. The next quote we had, let me get this one. No, that's that one. No. It's just opening now. So the next quote was more involved. So he basically said that we needed to re-enamel the in the stone. There's like recesses where the writing is. He wanted to re-enamel those, and there's a small section of stone that's missing, which he wanted to remove and replace and then redo. So basically this quote is a complete restoration, clean restoration of everything. So it'll look like brand spanking new basically. £2,119 to do that. And then I went away to try and get a comparable quote, because the requirement for the grant, if you want to get a war memorial grant, is you need a comparable quote. So I went with a specification to a local firm, and they've basically said, thank you for inviting us to quote, we're not willing to provide you with a price, because they don't believe anything needs doing other than some minor works to the wooden cabinet to stop the doors from sticking, a bit of revarnishing, and basically said, you know, for yes, it's a little bit dated and so on, but nothing technically wrong with it, you know. So that is the difference, he says, between conservation and restoration. So he would say conserve what's there, deal with the sticking door, and if you get a local cabinet maker to look at or furniture restorer to look at the cabinet and get that done. But he just can't see any compelling reason to clean it. Some of the mortar's not very good, but there's no point in doing patch repairs because it will show up. Anything you do will show up as being different. So if you need to get the mortar done, do it all in one go rather than doing little sections. So we've got very different opinions and very different prices for different things. So this guy also doesn't think we will get the grant. But that's his opinion, obviously. Where did he say that? Because it doesn't meet the funding criteria, such as eligibility. Yeah, so he's saying it doesn't appear to meet any of the. So there is very little wrong with it. Blah 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 blah. So I had a chat with Terry, and we both kind of agree with what this gentleman is saying. That's basically saying what really needs doing is the cabinet needs tidying up, the doors making so that they shut properly, and perhaps looking at maybe putting some perspex in front of it to stop it aging, because every year we have water damage and so on. So if the council are happy, I'll go away and get some quotes from some local furniture restorers, cabinet makers, to just do that.
Okay.
From what you've presented there, I haven't seen the memorial myself other than arrange, but that seems it seems as if they're looking at two different things.
Yeah, well, to be fair, in all fairness, the gentleman that's quoted £2,000 hasn't been to see it. He's just done it from pictures. So, and that's what he's saying. This guy is saying if they haven't visited it, then they're not really. It's not really very good basis to go on. But he has visited it because he had another meeting in the area, and he had a look at it and professionally thinks there's nothing wrong with it, which is great. You know, that's good. So,
I mean, a painter and decorator is probably sounds like is the main man with other sort of skills. It would be difficult. I've been patching what do they call it, pointings, not, unless you do the whole lot, it's going to look like a bodge.
Which is that's what he's saying, yeah.
Yeah.
And this the reason I found this guy is because he's an accredited conserver restorer, and is registered with the Institute of Conservation. So that was one of the reasons I went to this gentleman. He's fairly local as well. So I'm kind of basically he's given us a report for free, effectively, with his professional opinion, which I think we should probably follow.
I'm with that. I'm with you on that, Lee.
Could I just put Dina in on this, because she's the person that covers the war Dina, what would you like to say?
When I first flagged up the problem, it was just the doors that I was worried about. They were inclined to blow open in any wind, and I thought they were going to get increasingly damaged.
Okay.
They swelled up so much and then they jammed and nobody could open them for a bit. And then they seem to have just righted themselves.
Okay.
I think that last suggestion is very reasonable.
It's adequate, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else would like to come in on that? No? Okay. We'll go with that then, Lee.
Can't hear you, Terry. Sorry, I've muted you by accident. Sorry.
Have you muted me?
Oh, I can hear you now. Sorry.
Okay. That's charming, isn't it? Okay. Can we go with that then, Lee? If you,
I'll get some quotes.
Yeah.
From local furniture restorers.
And then we can discuss it at a later date.
I think what Dina was saying is right, and what I was concerned about is continually using Craig to keep revarnishing it.
Yeah, I think we got to go a little bit further this time.
I think we need a professional to look at it, really, not all of that other stuff. Yeah, okay.
And whilst they're at it, we can ask them how much a notice board would cost with opening doors, etc.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, and we move on. Balfour Beat changes to PROW punishment by Balfour Beatty. Doesn't affect us, does it?
Well, no and yes. So at the moment, Balfour Beatty, well, just before Christmas actually, Balfour Beatty have got 13 area liaison officers who deal with. We've got Mike Gill, and they deal with basically filling potholes, clearing gullies, maintaining our public highways, and part of that included the public rights of way, so all of the footpaths. But what Balfour Beatty have done is they're now reconfiguring the areas to 12 areas, and then they're going to have one liaison officer that will specifically deal only with footpaths. So effectively the footpath duties that Mike Gill has have been taken away from him. He still looks after our area, but we will have an overarching footpaths officer type liaison officer who will just deal with making sure footpaths are maintained. And I think this is probably a result of some of the COVID issues that are arising, because obviously people are walking more locally now, so our footpaths, as you've highlighted a few times, various people have highlighted, are in a more well-used state, let's say, than they have been in the past. So I think this person's, and there's going to be an education part to this role as well, trying to make sure people keep to footpaths and so on. So I think it's good, and we'll see where it goes from there, really. So I'll put Paul, once I know who it is, I'll put Paul in touch, our footpaths officer, Paul, in touch with the gentleman.
Okay, thank you. We now move on to update of signage for the ancient stone on the village green.
Yeah, so this was carried forward from last meeting because we didn't cover it. So there were, I think, I'm just remembering, from November I was asked to go away and speak to Jerry Dorr about
That's right.
whether he'd done what he'd found and whether he'd done anything regarding information for the stone. No, that's Mike Gill. I'll find Jerry's email. But in simple terms, he said that whilst he'd mentioned it, he hadn't actually gone away and done anything. So he never got around to doing it. But he did suggest it might be a Roman milepost, because it's approximately 100 metres away from the old Magnus Roman town. So that's a possibility. With regard to the actual potential signage, this is what was suggested by the locality steward, Mike Gill, and then I just clarified the size of the sign, and basically they've come back and said that it can't be any taller than the sign. And Sue's come back with, well, basically, I think we're just going to have something like ancient mark stone, do not remove, was the last suggested copy for the sign. So, any thoughts on that? Does
Anybody? Anybody?
What would the size of that be? Would it look like a sort of road sign, you know?
Well,
and you showed the one there from Mike Gill. That's quite big, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it would be lower and probably at a slightly different angle, if you like, so that as you stand above it, you can read it,
So just have the words ancient markstone, do not remove.
Yes.
So,
that was the last suggestion.
Could we get a price for that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Otherwise, we don't know what we're working to, do we?
Right. Well, as far as I think we've had this discussion before, and the stone is not the only stone that's in the area. There's others. It's not certain what the stone actually is. More than half the stones in the village are ancient, so we're not going to put a sign on all those. And my fear is that if there is a sign there, people are going to cross the road, because it's going to be a small sign. People are going to cross the road to read it, and splat, there we have got a death on our hands on it. And certainly children will be inquisitive, and it's such a dangerous area. It's been there for hundreds of years, so and it didn't have a sign on it when it was originally put there. So are we really honestly thinking of spending money on a stone that could actually cause us problems?
Wasn't the problem that people were sort of damaging it, and there was some idea of putting a little fence around it or something?
But this, Dina, in all the time that I've been here, and I know I'm ancient, but I've never known it to be damaged. It has been moved on the odd occasion for work to be carried out, but.
That was why the whole question of the signage came up, because of the problem.
Terry?
Sorry?
Can I just add what happened recently, which prompted this? When whoever it is, Balfour Beatty or whatever, whoever put up the 20-mile-an-hour sign right next to it was in very great danger of digging it up with their digger and flipping it on their wagon. That's what we're trying to avoid, which is what Dina's talking about.
What we can do, I spoke to the archaeology department in Hereford Council. It's not listed on their list of things of interest or whatever. However, he did say he could add it, given that there is. It's not clear from their point of view. There's no evidence that it's ancient as such in terms of significance. But what it is it's been in the village for about 300 years, definitely, based on evidence. So either it was used for people to mount a horse, or it could have been put there for people to sit on the village green, or, whatever. But it's got significance now because it's been here for at least 300 years. So they would be willing to put it on the list. Now, I don't know how that works. I don't know if when Balfour Beatty go to a job and they go, oh, look, on the list we've got this stone, let's not move it. I can ask the question, I'm not sure. Whether that's going to protect it,
I believe that is what happens, Lee.
Oh,
so they'll get an alert when they set the job up that in this area there is a significant thingy that will be on their worksheet.
Oh, okay. So that's what we need to do then, I think.
Yeah, that would be a good step forward, wouldn't it?
Yeah, my concern, I think what Terry said's true. If we put a sign there, we're kind of almost telling people it might be worth some money. You know.
I was going to mention that as well, Lee.
Yeah, it's just like saying, nick me, please, because I'm ancient and might be worth some money.
Yeah, and it's easier to get the lead off that roof.
The other thing we discussed when that came up before was a notice board, a sort of village notice board with things of interest. And when the subject of the danger of people crossing the road to look at the notice, if the information was on a notice board within a reasonable distance,
Yeah.
And other interest points in the village, like the community hall.
Yeah. But that's my concern, is that's such a dangerous area, and people crossing the road to read a sign because it's got to be small. I just think it's dangerous.
I think the point is you'd be able to read the sign. If it just said, "Do not remove ancient stone," you'd see that from across the road. That was all. I think it's more to protect the contractors digging it up, frankly.
How about having the sign flat on the ground by it? That way people wouldn't be able to see it as they were walking past. They wouldn't be distracted and tempted to cross the road to read it. But contractors would see it.
That's a good idea. Yes.
I think we need to register it, get it registered with whoever you mentioned, Lee, because that would then stop the contractors in theory. And then I agree with Rana, if we could have a flat stone with just those 5 words on, as flat sign, then it wouldn't be a distraction to people. As I think what Terry says is right. We don't want people running across the road to look at it.
No.
Could we look at that?
Yep. I think so.
It would also be better for mowing contractors as well, wouldn't it? They're less likely to damage their money on sign. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get a price for a flat sign and I'll get it registered.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Is everybody happy with that?
Yeah, I'll propose that.
Seconder?
Rana.
Okay. Rana's on the beach at the moment. But
Yeah, where are you, Rana?
Right.
You're not appropriately dressed for the beach, Rana.
Are you one of these people with a shabby kitchen so that you've got to put Okay. Public question time. Lee, is there any questions,
Yeah,
please?
let me just refresh. Can you just confirm the next date of the meeting and I'll...
Okay, the next date of the meeting will be the 10th of February at 7:30. Can you make a note of that? That's the 10th of February. It'll be pulled forward a week in February because of Lee will be away on leave.
Apparently. Well,
And,
I think I will be.
But, depending on lockdowns and all that sort of thing, we'll have to wait and see. It's the 10th of February.
All right.
No comments.
No comment.
No comments.
Have we had anybody watching?
No.
No?
Let it load.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for attending tonight. I know it's taken a long time to get through all the business, but thank you anyway. And we'll see you at the next meeting, and Lee will tell us in a few seconds.
Lee, could I ask you, please, to send me a copy of the footpath map?
It'll be in the CCN this month. There was a discussion on Facebook about. I shared a Hereford Times article that was landowners complaining about people walking out over crops and so on. And I just shared that and just mentioned the field next to the Roman Park is private farmland. It's not no public right of way. I just referenced that as a local example. So there was various discussions took place on that post, and I agreed as part of that we would publish the local footpaths in the CCN so that people have got information about local places to walk and so on.
The other thing that I've asked Lee to do for entry for the CCN, I don't know whether you agree with me or not, but the footpaths in the village are absolutely atrocious at the moment with dog poo. It's everywhere, and it's just so disappointing. I did get into a confrontation with somebody opposite my house the other night who is allowing his dogs to go on the play area there. There's two big signs there. One says no dogs and the other one says do not allow your dog to foul this area. And he said to me, it doesn't say no dogs. I said,